to thank you for watching our study in the book of 1 Corinthians. Today we're in 1 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, starting with verse number 18. The Apostle Paul is addressing the problem that in the church in Corinth. And basically the first problem that the Apostle Paul addresses is this pride, this religious pride, or this pride that comes from false wisdom. And again, we see that he addresses this again in verse number 18, where he says, now some have become arrogant. What's he saying? He's saying your problem there in Corinth is your arrogance. It's this pride that comes because you think you're so wise, but you're really not. And so he says, now some have become arrogant, and we need to keep in mind that pride is something that's extremely dangerous. Now, I'm not talking about having a confidence in God. Some people get that mixed up. I'm talking about having a confidence in yourself and in your own ability. That's what pride is. You know, the Solomon wrote in Proverbs 16, verse 18, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. Pride is a dangerous thing. You know, I've been in denominational meetings, and they say, I'm so proud, I'm a whatever. I'm a Baptist, I'm a Pentecostal, I'm a Assemblies of God, you know what? Pride is destructive. And I believe that the reason why the Apostle Paul addresses pride, at the very first thing is he addresses their arrogance, is because it is a gateway to stumbling. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. So keep that in mind. What does Paul say here? He says, now some have become arrogant, as though I am not coming to you. What's Paul saying? He's saying you've got so self-conceited, so much pride that you thinking that I'm not going to come to you. I'm not going to come to you, and I'm not going to bring correction to you. And what the Apostle Paul says is he says, I'm coming. I'm coming. Verse number 19, but I will come to you soon, if the Lord wills. Now, what's Paul saying? He's saying, my understanding or my commitment to you is that I'm coming to you. But, Paul adds, if the Lord wills. You know what? The Apostle Paul knew that he needed to walk in the will of God. I believe the Apostle Paul is very, very upset with the church in Corinth. And how many of you know sometimes when we get upset with people especially, we can make mistakes. So the Apostle Paul says this. He says, you know what? I have to do it according to the will of God. And so he says, I'm coming to you soon if the Lord wills. And then he says, I shall find out. What's he saying? He's saying, I'm coming, and I'm coming to find out something. I'm coming to find out. Now, the word find out is the Greek word genesko. And it means to know something in a complete sense. Paul is coming on a mission to Corinth. He comes on this third missionary journey to Corinth. But actually, this letter does everything that he intends for it to do. And we'll find that out if we ever get into 2 Corinthians. But Paul is saying, he's saying, if the Lord wills, I'm coming to you. And he said, I'm coming to you to do this. I'm going to find out. I'm going to come and get a full understanding, a full knowledge of what in the world is going on in Corinth. And then he goes on and he says these words. He says, not the words of those who are arrogant, but their power. Oh, what is Paul saying here? Paul is saying, I'm not going to come to hear words. I want to see their power. I want to know what they're doing. Now, the word power is the Greek word dunamis, and we get our word dynamite from. How many of you realize that dynamite changes things? And one of the ways that we need to look at dunamis is we need to understand that it's the power to change. And so Paul says, I'm going to come and I'm going to check out this power that's changing this church. I'm going to check it out. And then he goes on in verse number 20, and he says this, for the kingdom of God does not consist in words, but in power. You see, what's Paul saying? He's saying the kingdom of God doesn't depend on the words that people say. It doesn't depend on wisdom. It doesn't depend on all the philosophies and all the words that are spoken. But the kingdom of God depends on or depends in power. The explosive power of God to change a situation. And so the Apostle Paul says, I'm not going to come and listen to your words. But I'm going to come and I'm going to check out what's going on. I'm going to check out the power that's there. Is it changing lives? Is it making lives better? And then he goes and he says again in verse number 20, for the kingdom of God. Now, what is the kingdom of God? It's where God rules. It's where he reigns. The kingdom of God doesn't function in words. Does not consist or is not found in words. But the kingdom of God is found in the power to change a life. You see, when you come into the lordship of Jesus Christ, and you confess his lordship, and you say, Jesus, you are the Lord of my life. And that, by the way, that's the step that it takes to become a believer. You know what happens? Instantly. Not words, but instantly. The power of God comes into you and begins to change your life. That's what Paul here is saying here. Now let's move on to verse number 21. What do you desire? What's Paul saying? What do you want? I want to know what you want. What do you desire? Shall I come to you with a rod? Now this word rod it's used as a rod in this context is a disciplinary rod. Now, remember, Paul's coming in the power of the Spirit. He's coming with the will of God, but he's saying, you know what? I can come with a rod. How many of you know that a rod it's a disciplinary thing, but he's coming with the power of God to administer this rod of discipline. But he says, you can make up your minds. I can come to you with a rod, or I can come to you with love and a spirit of gentleness. What do you want? Now, I believe that the Apostle Paul came in his third missionary journey to the Corinthians in a spirit of love and a spirit of gentleness. Please join us again tomorrow as we continue our study in the book of 1 Corinthians.